Oh, so many projects and so little time. What can one do?
Good morning, everybody, and this is Stephen for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with me, with Stephen, and it is episode number 452 for April the 13th, 2026. Just so you know, this is the third time I started this. I don't know. I need this. Yes, and I hope you've got your coffee as well, because we're going to talk about this, that, and every other thing, as we usually do. And I'm going to clear my throat here. Me. Yes, okay, so let's jump into what I've been working on. Now, I do realize, because one subscriber has pointed this out to me, she let me know that I've gotten better at not repeating myself through the week. I'm glad that I've lived up to her approval. Yes, I know there is some repetition. That's the word I'm looking for. I need more coffee. I really do. And that usually takes the form of what I've been working on. Now, the reason there's repetition for that is I usually show these on Monday on the Coffee with Stephen, because over the past week I have done something with them, I've added to them, or I have finished them. So it's kind of a sneak peek on Monday morning coffee. On Tuesday, on the actual Idiot Quilter episode, I show them again, but I go into a little bit more detail about them. Problems I've had, what I like, what I don't like about them, how the process is coming, anything that I've done maybe a little different from the pattern. So that's why you'll see them again, but I give you more details. I show them again at the very beginning of So Chatty, along with what Walter is working on. And again, they may be a little further on because So Chatty comes on Fridays. And then they'll probably make another appearance at the very beginning of Stephen and Walter Live. Again, because there may have been more progress on them, or some people don't necessarily see the other videos, I don't know why, during the week, but they come for the live on Sunday. So yes, so I am sorry if it's a little repetitive, but that's pretty much the only part of any of my videos that I do where there might be some overlap. Okay, I hope that explains it. And without further ado, here's what I've been working on. And this is the I'm really pressed for words today. The Jacobean Floral Table Runner. And it is all completely finished, and now it rests on my dining room table for a while. I swap out my table runners all the time. And I'll talk more about this, and I'll talk a little bit about the binding come tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter. My next item up here, if I can get my cursor to work. Okay, these look much like the same as the other ones for the Alaska quilt, but this is block 5. Block set 5, and I have some concerns, and I'm working on a few things, and I'm going to talk about those on the Idiot Quilter tomorrow too, because you know that this quilt I have now labeled as my latest quilt from hell. You're probably saying, you have a lot of those. I do. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, Peter Pan, or Second Star to the Right, the Art East Quilt Company's Sew Along. I've got the first one done, not without some trials and tribulations, of course, a lot of little pieces, but we'll explore this a little further and tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter. And I want you to know that it isn't a problem with the pattern, or might be a problem with the pattern. I haven't decided that yet, sure, but we'll talk more about that again tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter. Okay, so end of repetition. Let's go and talk about comments from last week. Well, we had one comment that I thought I'd like to share with you. Carol Sews says, on an iPad, you can click the Idiot Quilter, which is to the right of the avatar. Now, this is in reference to, I put a little video clip up showing you how to find my email address on my videos, because YouTube has not made that readily available. There is a trick. So I hope you saw that. But what I didn't explain is how to find it on my iPad. And to be very honest with you, I didn't know how to find it either. This is the problem with using different mediums, I guess, or different devices, I guess, across devices, because everything's in a different spot, even though it's the same channel. So Carol Sews, though, she told me, or she wrote to me to let me know how you can find my email address on an iPad. And that's what she's talking about here. She says, on an iPad, you can click on the Idiot Quilter, which is to the right of the avatar. Okay, the avatar she's referring to is the little round picture. And then right next to that, if you click on the Idiot Quilter, okay, the Idiot Quilter, she says the text that appears has a more to click on. So that's very much similar as on a computer, on a laptop. There's a little description box under the video, and you just click the little word more, and it expands, and you get all kinds of information. Once you get to the next screen, the email address is in the last line of the text, and this is why I didn't spot it. It is not in an about area. It is actually right when you do what Carol has said to do, you will see a whole bunch of words, okay, in there. It's, it's got my address for YouTube and some other things and a little description of it. And right in there, it does say email me or just email, and it's got my email address in it for you there, okay? So this is on an iPad. On an iPhone or an Android phone, not absolutely sure if that is similar. It probably is. Anyways, she says there is also an about button at the bottom of the stuff that shows up on the right-hand side of the screen when you click on the more that Stephen demonstrated. I never realized that the about was down there. Yes, there's an about off to the side on the iPad, and there's an about on a laptop at the bottom, and yeah. So are you completely confused? Yeah, you need a diagram. My advice is a lot of people don't realize there's a whole lot of other features when they're viewing someone's presentation on YouTube. Take a few minutes to explore, because oftentimes you'll find a lot of information you didn't know that existed there. Now, YouTube has a horrible habit of changing things around a lot and not telling anybody about it. So it is a discovery method that you are using to find this stuff. I'm sorry I don't publish my email address right out there up front where you can find it, because unfortunately, as we all know, there are scammers who use bots to scrub through all the videos on YouTube in order to find information like that to do horrible things to people. Yeah. So that's why it's not there. But anyways, that's how you find it. Okay. Thank you, Carol, for that. Okay. Let's jump into what's been happening at home and elsewhere. Well, let's talk about the top headlines for Canada this past week. Well, of course, the top headline, which is more American, I suppose, but it really affects the whole world, is the Artemis II astronauts, they return. And of course, for us in Canada, we have a special relationship to that because one of those 4 astronauts is a Canadian. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty much sure everybody was holding their breath when they were if you watch the splashdown. We did watch the splashdown as well. It's, amazing to think that, this is the furthest that humankind, I'm not going to say mankind, that humankind have been out there. So, on a positive side, it may bring about good things, but we all know that technology and advancements in technology and things like that often have 2 sides, the good side, and then it gets corrupted by the evil people in the world. But for a moment, we were all overjoyed that the astronauts splashed down. It was a very, very successful journey, and they're alive. Because we all remember what happened back with, was it the Columbia? That kind of thing. And there's been actually a couple of space shuttles that have blown up, and then Apollo 13, that experience and the whole bit, if you're old enough to remember all those things. And probably you are, according to my demographics. This group remembers things right back from the Stone Age. I include myself in that, so don't take an insult to it. But anyways, that was one of the top headlines. In fact, that was the one that was really the big story in the news. And for a brief moment while we were watching that, we forgot about what was going on over in the Middle East, didn't we? But not for long. So, in federal politics here in Canada, we have had another one of the Conservative Party members cross the floor and join the Liberals, which is great in my opinion, because after tonight, because there's three by-elections here in Canada to fill vacant seats in Parliament, and two of those ridings that are having by-election are probably going to end up being Liberal because they're Liberal strongholds to start with. So the experts out there are predicting there won't be any change. This will give Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, his party, a majority. And a majority government right now is extremely important to us as Canadians, because minority governments depend upon having the opposition vote with them on certain issues. Well, on all issues. And if they don't, then things don't get passed, and they get delayed, and there's filibusters, and there's just nasty people going at each other's throats. With a majority government, basically it says, shit on the opposition. You can't do a thing. You can sit there and pound your little feet and fists and make all kinds of insulting comments, and they do. If you want to see a comedy, or maybe it's a tragedy, tune into the Canadian Parliament system when they're having question period. Oh, those people are pigs. They really are. Not as big a pig as Trump, mind you. They do have a little bit of decorum and manners, but sometimes you wonder about it. You really do. But I digress. So anyways, after tonight, Mark Carney should have a clear majority government, and there are rumors that there may be more Conservatives that will cross the floor. And all of this, I think, is due to the fact that their leader, Poilievre, he's completely ineffectual. He doesn't have a platform. All he does is talk about dirty politics as if he's never been part of that. And yeah, the man is an idiot, okay, in my opinion. I know there'll be some Canadians, the ones who support him, would say the exact same thing about Mark Carney or whatever. Well, that's fine. That's why we live in a democracy here in Canada still. Unlike other places in the world, not too far away from us, we can have our opinions. And that's my opinion. And you are free to agree or disagree. That's totally up to you. Okay? But anyways, for me, I am very happy that this is happening, because I think Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, is an excellent man for the job right now, given everything that's going on in the world. Okay, other news, Trump's tariff threats and economic pressure. Well, you know, of course, he's put all kinds of tariffs on Canada, on anything that comes from our country, which people still don't understand. Yes, hurts us, but it hurts Americans more, because it's a tax. You're having to pay more for the stuff that comes into your country. So, you know, get off the pot if you still believe that that Trump is making all kinds of money for the country and he's going to get rid of income tax and everything. How many of you have seen anything from that? All I'm hearing on all the legitimate news outlets is how much prices are going up in the States and how the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. How healthcare has been decimated. You know, health insurance and stuff like that. So, yeah, tariffs, good for the Americans. No, not. Bad for Americans. Bad. So it says here, federal and provincial leaders are preparing for a potential 25% tariff on Canadian goods proposed by U.S. President Donald Trump, with economists warning of major impacts on Ontario and Alberta. First of all, economists are the naysayers of the world. Economists always bring doom and gloom. They're kind of passive aggressive too, because on one hand they turn around and they say, "Ooh, the last quarter was higher than expected for this, or the other thing," but then they go, "Oh yeah, but that won't last. That's going to go down the tubes." Make up your mind, okay? I think they just have a big wheel and they spin it, and wherever it stops, that dictates what they think is going to happen with the economy. It's like trying to predict the weather. Not really. No, you can't. But as I said, the tariffs are not hurting us as bad as it's hurting the Americans. Oh yeah, it's having an effect. Okay, but for a lot of reasons, and it's not just tariffs. We have all our food prices are going way up. Transportation, gas, oil, all of that, and most of this is not from tariffs. Most of this is from the war in the Middle East. Yeah, it is amazing that one man could have that effect on the world economy. Really. And he's not suffering, nor his cronies that work with him. They've got lots of money. They get lots of perks. It's the average American citizen, and in our country, the average Canadian citizen that are suffering. So, yeah. So, international relations and oil is the next headline. Mark Carney has rejected moves by the Trump administration to ease sanctions on Russian oil, navigating complex geopolitical and energy pressures. Okay, so you're going to say, well, why is Canada doing this? It's hurting the world. It's continuing to add to everything that's going on in the world when it comes to oil. Well, no. Russia is a horrible place. Well, not Russia itself, the Russian dictator, Putin. He's still fighting the Ukrainians just because he feels like it. He's like Trump. He has no good reason. Trump has no good reason to have gone into Iran, and Russia has no good reason to be attacking the Ukrainian people. And that's been going on for over 4 years. So, yeah, of course, Putin's his buddy, he thinks. Trump doesn't know how to pick his friends. Really? I wouldn't trust Putin as far as I could throw him. But Mark Carney has his head on his shoulders. Yes, we're rejecting that because, first of all, Russian oil, we don't get a lot of it in Canada. We make our own oil to a certain extent. It's a little bit more complex than just turning on a tap or that kind of thing. But we're not dependent upon, well, either one, the Middle East oil or Russian oil, as is some other countries are. It affects us. Yes, our gas prices are sky high, just like they are in the United States and other places in the world. But Carney's taking a stand, and it's also a message to Trump. Just because you want something doesn't mean you're always going to get it. Okay? Kind of like a little 5-year-old kid who wants candy and mommy says no, and they throw a little tantrum. And that's what Trump does all the time. And then, of course, we have, and this is sad in our country, this is sad, anti-Jewish threat charges. A 30-year-old Ajax man, this is a town 2 towns over from me, was arrested and charged on April 10th with criminal harassment and uttering threats following a hate-motivated investigation into anti-Jewish comments. Okay, I get it. The Israeli state right now is not playing nice. It isn't the Jewish people, though. It is, again, one man. And I can never say his name. Annette Yahoo? Annette, yeah, you know who I mean. He suckered in Trump for the war in Iran. He really has. And he's letting Trump, have the burden of responsibility for that war. But if the truth be known, it takes 2 to tango. And, of course, Trump thinks that the president, is he prime minister or prime minister, whichever, the head of the Israeli state, he thinks they're good buds, just like he thinks that of Putin. Well, I guess there's an expression about thieves, honor among thieves, or something like that. I don't know. They're all dictators. Yeah, they have a own little club, the Dictator Club. But here in Canada, we pride ourselves on being very multicultural, and we are. Yes, we have problems with being multicultural. Every society does. But the one thing, we have a human rights code that protects people, Canadian citizens, whether their backgrounds are not necessarily Canadian, that they come from other parts in the world, which really that is to be a Canadian, is to have roots somewhere else as well. We don't do hate, anti-Semitic comments, and for that matter, we don't do, racist, anti-religion, whatever things. We have rights that are protected in our Constitution against those. Yes, I understand it is a high tension time. But bottom line is, we are Canadian. We are all Canadian. If you live here in Canada, you are a Canadian. So you're attacking your own people. Yes, horrible situation going on over in other parts of the world, but it's not our fault, and it's not the fault of the people who are living in our country. So lay off. That isn't being Canadian. I mean, I know we get a little uptight about these things, but that isn't being Canadian. So I'm glad that this person was caught and will be brought to justice, hopefully, for that. So those are the top headlines from the past week. And yeah, and yes, even though I was talking about Canada, you can't talk about these things without talking about the United States and Trump. And we know what the reason is for that. Okay, so what's been happening here at home? Well, Walter and I were on a sew day on Saturday at the club, as we call it. This, of course, is with Walter's original sewing group that used to meet virtually during COVID online. And that's how Walter learned how to sew shirts and everything else that he does. So there's not many of us. In fact, it was almost just all men. It primarily is just men because, well, it's a gay group, to say at least. We meet at the gay club. So, yeah. But we do have a couple of ladies that usually join in too. Now, there was only one this past week there. The other one was busy. So it was a good experience, and that's when I worked a lot on those blocks I showed you earlier for the Alaska quilt. Was there any good gossip? Well, there was, but I can't share that with you. No, you'd have to show me your toaster oven, and I know you don't understand that reference, and I'm just going to leave that reference as it is. Well, for those of you who like to look up things, look up Ellen DeGeneres's, not her talk show, the comedy show she used to have in the, I think it was the 90s on TV. You'll find about the toaster oven on that. It has to do with her coming out. Yeah. Okay. So we did have an experience though this week too. We never go to fast food restaurants at all anymore for a variety of reasons. But one of the major reasons is, have you priced McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King lately? You can have a nicer meal at a small diner or something like that than for probably less money or about the same amount. I mean, it's expensive as hell. I don't know how families do it. Like, kids always want to go to McDonald's for a Happy Meal or whatever they call it. And they love it. But it's expensive. So, yeah. But we decided because we were by a Wendy's, we were hungry, we thought, well, we'll give it a shot. Now, the last time we were in a Wendy's, which is probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2, same one that I'm talking about right now, I was insulted. I was a victim of ageism, very blatantly, and I talked all about that time, and I actually wrote a letter to the company, to the head office, and they were very sorry about it. They were going to look into it, blah, 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 and they sent me some coupons for freebies. Okay, fine. But we hadn't been back since that. So this time when we were in the Wendy's, it was horrible. First of all, we both had a salad, a taco salad. Now what we used to do is they didn't have a taco salad on their menu. And this is quite a few years ago. So this is one of Walter's tricks. He would order a side salad and a small tub of chili and dump it on the salad. And you had taco salad. And actually very, very tasty. And I was doing the same thing. Then they stopped that. You can't get a plain side salad anymore. The closest they've got is a side Caesar. But they do have a taco salad at $10.19 or something like this, with tax. Or no, that might have been before tax. But so we decided, well, we'll order that. Well, we did. Oh, what a sad, sad salad for $10. I mean, 3 leaves of lettuce, nothing else. No like green peppers, red peppers, a tomato, onion, nothing. It was just this sad looking lettuce, and you got your little tub of chili with it. Oh yes, you did get a little bag of taco chips and some salsa and sour cream too, all on the side. Yeah. So we went ahead and ate that. And while we were, Walter ordered, he always has to have something to drink with his meal. I'm like a camel. I go dry. But Walter has to be lubricated up to get his food down. So he ordered a regular or small Diet Coke. So, you know, these places have those machines that give you about 12,000 different selections. They gave him a cup. He went to the machine, pushed the button for Diet Coke. Came up, unavailable. Tried that again, unavailable. So he's looking around to see what other diet selections there are. And he tried several other things. They were all unavailable. So he went back into the selection of Coke products, and just out of curiosity, he tried Coke Zero. Unavailable. In fact, all the Coke products were unavailable. We've paid for this. They gave us their cup. Do they not know that their machine needs to be refilled or whatever they have to do to it? So we went to the counter and we got attitude from the one there. Like, I'm sorry, it's not our fault. It's not our fault your machine isn't stocked up. That's your job. She's, well, I'll get you some from on our side, like, you know, where they fill things up for the drive-through. And she said, what was it again? And Walter said, a Diet Coke. Oh, no, can't get you that. We only have Coke Zero. Fine. He got a Coke Zero. But, you know, if she had told us that at the beginning when we were, she go, oh, I'm sorry, our machine isn't working. The only thing we can get you is Coke Zero. Walter probably wouldn't have ordered it. But no. And attitude. They also gave us attitude as well, just as a little extra. So then we went to sit down when we finally got our food, and there is this siren blasting for 10 minutes, to the point it was so loud. And I'm looking at other people in the place, and they're all looking at each other too, going like, are they going to? It was painful. It was so loud, it was painful. Finally, somebody, the staff, sauntered over, went through a door, hit something, stopped it, sauntered back. You know, didn't say anything to the patrons in the store, like, oh, so sorry about this, we'll get on that, we'll fix that up, sorry about that. I think it was like one of those emergency door alarms, but it was loud, just ear-piercing. But they didn't really give a hoot about that. So the whole experience was horrible. I wrote a letter, an email. I know they got it because I got one of those little case codes, you know, that they sometimes send out. And in the letter, I essentially told them what was wrong. I showed them pictures. Oh, yeah. And our, I think it was the salsa, had expired, you know, best before date 5 days ago. Yeah. And so I put all that in a letter and told them we weren't going back. And I said in the letter, I'm not looking for compensation. I did send them a copy, though, of the bill. I told them that it was overpriced for what we got. Took pictures of that, too. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of reply I get back from them, if I get any kind of reply from them. But I told them I was not interested in being compensated. Don't bother sending me a coupon for a freebie, because I won't be using it, because I will never be back. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of response I get from that. It'll be your standard, oh, we're so sorry about your experience. We've had some problems. We're looking into it, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't it just rot your socks when this comes back to you? I mean, this is the problem with our world. There is no accountability. And even when you make a legitimate complaint, even when you're nice when you make the complaint, you get nothing from it. They don't give a shit. And it makes you feel like dirt. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of feeling like dirt. Oh, this is the complaint hour on here right now. As you know, I went to the dentist on last Monday as well for my cleaning. And I was scheduled for a checkup. So great. Cleaning went along. I hate the dentist. I have a fear of them. It comes from childhood. But anyways, I'm an adult. I should be over it, but I'm not. And just as an aside, one of the things that drives me nuts in a dentist's office, and I wish we had the technology do it, why is it that all the equipment, the drill especially, has to have a high-pitched squeal? You know, that sound just makes me cringe. Anyways, dentist came in. This place, I've been going to this same place since 1969. I've been through several dentists that have started their career in this site and have retired. The current dentist I was going to, we called him the Tooth Fairy because he's a gay boy. But we really liked him. He only does it one day a week because he's busy pursuing his career as a musical theater actor. Yes, in local theaters. Good for him. Follow your dream. Yeah, but he sold the business to somebody else. And we're not really sure how this works, but it's more like it's a corporation now. And it is assembly line dental care. Oh, they're always very pleasant when you walk in. They should be. And I'll tell you why they should be really pleasant with what it costs me in a moment, but I'll tell you that in a moment. Anyways, this other dentist, not one I've had before, she gets into my mouth and she's looking around. Oh, well, there's a couple of old fillings in there that I think we need to do some work on. They're starting to wear away. And your one wisdom tooth at the back, yes, I have my wisdom teeth still. That's why I'm so smart. Has a couple of little cavities. We should get at that. Well, I'm kind of looking at her and going, oh, because I'm very conscientious about my teeth. And I'm thinking, funny, Walter had been here a couple of weeks ago and you found a few things that you thought you should do to him too for a high price. So you begin to wonder, because you can't see in your own mouth, but they can see. Do I or don't I? And, you know, we've been trained to trust these kind of people because they're the trained professionals, right? Anyways, fine. So that meant I had to make another appointment for all this to be done. Well, when I'm in the process of making that appointment with the receptionist, she said, oh, I've had a cancellation. We can do that work now if you'd like. Well, no, I don't like, but I figured might as well. I'm here. Let's get it over with. I was in that dentist office from 9:30 in the morning, from 9 o'clock. It was 9 o'clock in the morning until 11:35. My morning was shot. That for all of this. Anyways, long story short, the dentist did work on me. She had her little sidekick, I'd like to refer to as Igor, because this little sucker was stretching my mouth in ways and manners that it's never been stretched before. She was rough, very rough, and the dentist wasn't much better. And I thought I was never going to get out of that chair. So, yep, after all of that horror was put together, and it was a bad experience for some other reasons too. Like the room, it's like they're trying to put in more chairs, kind of like the airlines making the space between the seats smaller. That's what they're doing in this office. The office I was in, without a doubt, the chair had to be put in there on a diagonal to get it in. It needed painting, the office and everything else. It actually looked a little grubby, I thought, which is not usual for this place. And you know the big tray that comes out from the chair that you're in that holds all their instruments and everything? You're not going to believe this. The room was so small that when the dental assistant was stocking it up with all their torture devices that they put on there, their hooks and whips and chains and everything like that, she had to rotate the tray arm out into the hallway. What? Come on. I mean, I was like, you know, my jaw dropped. Well, that was a cue for the dentist to get in there and kill me. And she did. Okay, so I was in the chair for quite a while for this. And I knew it was going to cost. I knew that. And I am so glad that we have third-party insurance for dental. But I went up to the receptionist to pay my bill. And she looked at it and she goes, okay, this one's a little... Like I said, I know it's going to be expensive. I'm thinking 600, maybe 700, $1,153 for what, you will say? A cleaning, a checkup, and they had 3 things they did in my mouth, whatever those were supposed to be. Yeah. Now, my insurance, I don't get it all back, but I have to pay up front. That's another thing I don't like about this dentist too, but this has been going on for years. Many other dentists, because you have insurance, it's all done electronically now. They know exactly they're going to get their money. They put everything in. You just pay the amount that is your, some people call it a copay, deductible, whatever. It's whatever. My insurance company handles 85%. So the other, what's that, 15%, I have to pay up front. So essentially, even though it was well over $1,000, my share of it was about $300. Okay, fine, but I have to pay the whole thing up front, and then the insurance company electronically transfers the amount that I'm supposed to get back from them, which was $700 some odd dollars or whatever, into my bank account. You know. Again, maybe they've been burned in the past by insurance companies or by people there, so I kind of get that. But come on, I've been going to you since 1969. Never once defaulted on a payment. And that was back in the days before the insurance and stuff like that. So, yeah, overall experience, not good. Then, once the freezing came out and everything, this side of my face where they did their stuff to the wisdom tooth, I'm chewing my cheek. I'm biting my cheek. When I try to eat, I'm biting my cheek. So I thought I'd let that go for a day. You know, figured, well, there might be swelling or something. That's why this is this way. No, she didn't smooth it down, I don't think, correctly enough. So I'm debating with myself. Do I call them up, make another appointment so they can do the job right? I don't really fancy being in that dentist chair anymore with her. So I left it. Well, today it's better. Still a little bit there, but it's kind of adjusted itself. So whatever, so I'm happy about that. But that shouldn't have been, period, if she had done her job properly. So it makes you question what their training is. Anyways, yeah. So Walter and I have both been talking about whether or not we should start looking for a new dentist. You know, the whole problem is, this place has all of our records, mine especially, go back to pre-computer days. Probably if we find another dentist, they'll want to do a workup, you know, for their own files. I don't know if they'll contact the old dentist and get copies of all of my records, or do I have to pay for that? Probably do, to transfer it all. And you don't know what the new dentist is going to be like. So it's like the devil you know, or the don't know, whatever that expression is. So yeah, it's always something. It is. So I don't have to worry about this again for another 4 months. Yes, I go every 4 months to have my teeth cleaned by their recommendation. And here was why I got the recommendation. Because your insurance will cover that. Not because your health might need it or it's better for that. No, because your insurance will cover it. Do you think they're a money-making place? Yeah, I'd say so. In the next life, I want to be a dentist. Yeah. Okay, so I went on about all that stuff too long, didn't I? So highlights from the videos last week. Well, last week on Monday Morning Coffee, you saw Bunny Splat, where I was showing you an Easter decoration, but actually I'm going to leave it up all year round because I think it's hilarious. It makes me laugh, and we need a laugh right now, which was basically that looks like it's a magnet. It looks like the bunny has run into face first into the side of your fridge and splat it. Yeah, I know I'm sick like that. And we talked about other things in 3D printing because this is the one video sequence out of the week where I tend to spend a little bit more time talking about 3D printing than I do necessarily quilting, although the two will overlap. On the Idiot Quilter, we talked about the second star to the right and other projects I was working on. And on So Chatty, we continued our series with the Accuquilt, and we took a look at one of the Qcube sets, and in my opinion, that's good value for the money. We looked at the 8-inch Qcube set and how to use it. And this week, coming up on So Chatty, we're going to continue with that, but we're going to look at the largest Qcube set, which is the 12-inch. And of course, we caught up with Walter on his free motion quilting, which he's doing a brilliant job of. I mean, yes. And I knew he would be good at that because he's got that kind of talent in him. God, I wish I had it, but I don't. I'm jealous. Yes, I am jealous. And on Stephen and Walter Live yesterday, we talked about Trump again. It was a very political one, but basically we didn't spend the whole show on that. We only spent the last 15 minutes really of it, but you know, just taking a look at it from a more personal point of view of how Trump has affected my life. Yes, my life and Walter's life and the lives of Canadians and the lives of American citizens. So anyways, enough said about that. Coming events. We've got Sewing with Stephen on Wednesdays, as usual. All are welcome. Links in the show notes. And let's talk about the retreat because we're on the heels of it right now. Registration updates. We have about 81 people registered, which is excellent. There are still spots available, so I have extended the deadline for registering to this Wednesday. So after Wednesday, that's it. I won't be taking any more registrations for it because I need to be able to get everything organized. So that's why I can't have last minute registrations, even if I have spots available. But 81's pretty darn good. Now I'm expecting a few will drop out this week because there always is. Life happens, that kind of thing. But that's a pretty good turnout. I've been in contact with all of my presenters. We're all on the same page. All that's good, so that should be great. The show and share slideshow that I have requested people who have registered, one picture. That's all I need. And just send it to my email address. So go in and find that. And that is due by midnight tomorrow, April 14th, because I need time to put the slideshow together. Now, actually, I probably should say that would be actually more due by the 15th, because if I have extended the registration to that, then yeah, I need to extend the others. So yeah, forget the 14th. The 15th will be the deadline for show and share. I might make an exception. I hate to do this, but I could probably... No, I'm not going to make an exception. No. I just thought about this. Don't do that. No. You're just making life really difficult. No, April the 15th is the deadline for registering, if you haven't already and you want to, and for the show and share slideshow. And remember, on the show and share slideshow, all you need is to send me one picture, JPEG format, please, and just your first and last name. I do not need any explanation, and I have said this many times over, and I'm still getting people that feel they need to send me a picture with an explanation behind it. Well, thank you. It was interesting to read those explanations. They're not going anywhere. That explanation will not appear on the slide, and I will not be reading it to anybody. So, just the picture, like, save yourself some time and bother. Just the picture, just your first name and your last name, please. And it'll be part of the slideshow. Okay. Anything else I need to tell you about the retreat? Well, yes, also a reminder for those of you that are registered, you will get on Wednesday at some point an email from me which has the whole agenda and the breakdown of timing for it, for the day, for the retreat. The link will be there as well, the Zoom link for it. And there will also be a Zoom link for the icebreaker cocktail party the night before on Friday evening. That starts at 7 p.m. And I've had a few people ask, well, I couldn't really register for the retreat because I'm busy that day, but I'd really love to come to the cocktail party. No. No. The cocktail party is for the registered participants, so I'm sorry. So it will not be publicized, that link. That link will go with that agenda email that I send out on Wednesday to the registered people. And the cocktail party is very relaxed. Is it do you have to come to it? No, you don't have to come to it. It's up to you. It's just a way to make yourself feel more comfortable with maybe some of the people that are coming to the retreat. It's an icebreaker. Bring a drink. Bring two. Bring alcohol. Alcohol helps on an icebreaker. Up to you. And a snack. And we'll talk and chat, get to know each other. If you've got something you would like to show us that isn't in the slideshow, or if you've missed the deadline for the slideshow, bring it along with you and you'll have an opportunity to share it with us all as well at the cocktail party. It's going to be a great day. Yeah, okay. So let's move along here and let's take a look at the Ring camera and see what kind of day we have out there right now. Right now it's not doing anything, but it's gray and dull, and it's 7:30 in the morning, so it should be a little lighter. It was raining before, and in the forecast it does say that today we should have rain, most of it. Well, most in the morning. It says it's raining right now. I don't think it is. Well, it could be right now, because I took that picture half an hour ago. I'm just looking out my window. It looks like it might be. It looks drizzly. Yeah, it has, and it looks like it's going to be that way, well, at least until around 10 o'clock this morning, so I may go for my walk a little later. Says rain stopping briefly. Rain is expected to stop in 4 minutes and start again in 7 minutes later. Okay, it's going to be that kind of day. April showers. And right now it's currently 9 degrees C. But we're supposed to have a high today of, get this, 20 degrees C. That's nice. That's shorts weather for sure, and sandals. Of course, if it's raining, it won't be that nice, but okay. Nice weather. And I think for the rest of the week, yeah, rain today, rain tomorrow, rain Wednesday, rain Thursday, rain Friday, rain Saturday, rain Sunday. Okay, ain't that nice? But high temperatures are in the double digits. So that's kind of nice too. Like the highest being 20 degrees C, which is, for those of you that think in Fahrenheit, that is about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Room temperature. Yeah. Okay, so that's the kind of day we're having. Let's take a look at what's happening with the grow lights. Well, here we go. The new crop of lettuce is coming up very nicely, as you can see. And this is the old crop of lettuce, and it's getting a little gnarly. And the basil's gone wild. And we're leaving it. It's an experiment. I want to see how big we can grow it and what happens to it. Does it become a bush? Like, you don't usually see basil plants this size. You know, the ones you buy in the grocery store that die the next day are little things. But this has got quite a little stem on it. Like, that's quite stocky. It's like a tree trunk. So we'll see what happens there. And here's the jungle. And new tomatoes. We've got new tomatoes coming on and other ones. We have been picking tomatoes every day. They're in salads. They're in sandwiches. They're in everything. We've got tomatoes coming out of our yin yang. And if you look way in the back, those dark colored peppers are changing. They're becoming orange peppers. And we've kind of left them back there to see what will do with them. We're keeping an eye on them because I do want to eat them. I don't want them to rot on the vine, so to speak. But it's interesting to see this progression with peppers. I always thought that red peppers were a different variety from green peppers, but apparently they're not. Green peppers, if you leave them long enough on the vine, they become red peppers. I don't know if that's the same with orange and yellow, but yeah. So things are growing very nicely, and we got little flowers on here, which means more tomatoes coming. And these are newer tomato plants. These smaller ones down here, and these big things Walter's got them in, they're starting to take over his workbench. Of course, the mess his workbench is always in, you'd never know what's taking over, his tools or the vegetables. Okay, so that's how everything is going along with that. Let's talk about 3D printing. Okay, first of all, I had a little problem with my AMS, my first original AMS that's on my very first Bamboo Lab printer. It was kept coming, it was pulling in the filament, and then it was pulling it back, and it was coming up eventually with an error message saying that it couldn't extrude, that the nozzle was blocked or something. I fooled around with it. Long story short, I ended up replacing the nozzle. I had a spare one, and that didn't make any difference. It started to work, and then it was going back to this problem again. So I'm thinking, okay, the problem has to be with the AMS itself. The AMS, by the way, if you don't know what I mean by that term, is the automatic material supply system. It's the color changer. It takes 4 spools of filament. You can just see it there over this shoulder. Okay, this shoulder. I get tied up in a knot. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So I took it apart. Now, the one thing I'll say about Bamboo Labs products so far, anytime you have to repair something, the parts are readily available from their site, and they have a wiki on how to do it, and it's usually pretty easy. Replacing the nozzle is not hard, so that was done. I ordered a backup one. I stockpile parts. And so when I took the AMS apart, well, I found something really interesting, and I'm going to insert a little video clip to show you why I was having the problem and why taking the AMS apart was a really good idea.
So I was having some problems with my AMS. This is the original AMS, and I thought it was having trouble pulling filament through, and it was coming up and saying that it couldn't extrude it, and I couldn't figure out why. I replaced the whole hot end nozzle. That didn't seem to work, and I couldn't figure it out. So I decided, okay, I better take this sucker apart. This is what I found inside. This is PETG all wrapped up in here that hadn't fed through. Another piece of filament stuck in there. Yeah, I have to untangle this and get that out, and that's my problem. So this is all the tangled filament that I pulled out from underneath the AMS unit, this bottom frame. I've just replaced the frame. I did notice, though, there's some wear and tear on one of these rollers right here. You can see how that has been chewed up, probably because this is where the tangled filament was, so it was probably creating resistance. It's a wonder it didn't bust up the little motor thing down here that pulls it in. I've ordered some replacement parts for this. I ordered a bunch of replacement parts for the AMS to have on hand because, you know, this is my original AMS, and wear and tear on it. So I thought I'd better proactively get some parts for it. So I'm going to put this back on the machine, get the PFTE tubes plugged back into it, and check it out. So the AMS is up and running the way it should be running, and once I get those new parts, I'll replace that one roller. The one thing I'm going to say about Bamboo in terms of fixing it up, they have parts readily available for them. They're not expensive, and it's really easy to do your own repairs. Plus, they have a lot of support for you online with their wiki. So that's another thing I like about the Bamboo system. It's too bad they're discontinuing the X1 carbon because I love it, but as I said in a previous video, they're not really going to stop supporting it until after 2031. So by then, well, 5 years time, who knows what 3D printing is going to be all about.
Yeah. So you learn something every day. I have those rollers and things that I mentioned in there. I have them all on order and everything, and it is working fine right now, but I do want to replace that one roller because that's going to cause grief very soon. I'm sure of it. Okay, so I did manage to make a few little practical prints in the past week. Pillbox. Okay, I have been fooling around with my medication. I'm not on that much medication, but I've got 2 pills for blood pressure that I take, and I've got 2 pills for cholesterol. Then I have a vitamin, and I have a ginger pill. Don't ask me why I'm taking ginger. I don't know if it's doing any good for anything, but it was recommended to me by somebody in the neighborhood, and I thought I'd give it a go. Can't hurt, I suppose. So anyways, my medication, there is my cholesterol medication. It says on the bottle, and I was doing this wrong for a long time, to take it at night. The other pills I can take whenever I want, but they recommend you take them at about the same time every day. Well, I had another pill case that was a 7-day one, and that's where all my pills were going. And then I had to sort out the ones for the night. And then I would forget to take them or question myself, because I was getting things mixed up. So I went on to Maker World. I found this. I printed it. Works like a charm. It has your 7 days AM, your 7 days PM, and it sits on the side on my bathroom counter, and all my pills are in there, and once a week I stock them all up, and so this is keeping me much better organized. And I'm telling you, do I feel like an old man now that I have this? I keep picturing my father sitting at the kitchen table with all his medications, sorting them all out and dropping them into his individual pill boxes, until my mother was able to get everything put in blister packs, I guess. So you just, you pulled off a blister pack and it had your medication for the day. It was a little easier because it's easy to get your medication mixed up, isn't it? And I'm sure many of you have experienced that. So that's a practical print. Now, you know that I printed a bunch of owl things for the lady who is always our regular server at a restaurant we go to every Wednesday night. And she had mentioned she liked owls. So I made her a variety of owls, and I showed pictures of those a week ago. Well, we gave them to her last Wednesday, and she was thrilled. Well, at least I don't think she was pretending. She really liked them, and that made me very happy. And I told her, if anytime you want something more or whatever, just let me know, because I love making them. And I don't think people believe me when I say that I love making this stuff and I don't want any money for it. It's true. I don't want any money. I'm not a business. I'm not trying to make money from it. I'm just happy that makes other people happy. I like to give gifts. So there you go. So yeah, her response was much appreciated. Okay, now another practical print, and I came upon these, not by accident, but to make them was by accident, and that was these bobbin boxes. Now, what's unique about these bobbin boxes? That you can get, there's all kinds of different designs for bobbin boxes. These are just 2. But what's unique is the little spool of thread, or the bobbin, on the top of them. There is a program that I discovered on Maker World that's just come out, where you can take an image or even words in that, and take any item, any model, and have this printed onto the model. So that's what I did here with the spools. And they look almost like a sticker. In fact, I took a bunch of these to the sew day on Saturday, because I always like to take a little something over for everybody, and handed them out. And one of the people that received one of these said, well, where did you get these stickers? This is not a sticker. I said, it's 3D printed right into the box. So they really like them. Why are there 2 different versions? Well, the first version with the lid that comes off, the black one in the front, it holds about, 15? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 15 bobbins. Works fine, except that the lid is not tight on it. So if you were traveling with this, like putting it in your go bag for, you're off to a retreat or a class, your bobbins would probably all end up all over your sewing bag. Whereas the more rectangular ones in the back, they actually clip shut. And it's a good, nice, you hear the click when you click it down. It's very satisfying. That's a term they use these days for this kind of noise thing. Very satisfying. So I had already made a bunch of the other ones, so I took them all over, and everybody got 2 different ones to try out and do whatever they want to do with them. So, yeah. And another very, very practical print for me are these what look like little blocks of plastic. And they are essentially blocks of plastic, but they're risers. I made these to make the little table that sits off to the left side of my sewing machine, and it lines up with my extension table with the risers. So, and that gives me more space, especially when you're doing a big piece and you're like, say, putting binding on a quilt. It supports the quilt. And I also use it as a mini ironing station, pressing station, because I have my little mini iron on that table and a wool mat and everything. And so, when I'm doing little pieces that need to be pressed and that, I'm not running over to my big iron. I can do it right there. But I need to have it on the same level, and this table, without the risers, is about 6 inches too low. Now, I did have risers on this before that I had printed on the 3D printer. Ones that look more like what you think of when you think of traditional risers. And they were fine, except they were tippy. Because they didn't have as much space on them, and they were sort of pyramid shaped. Sometimes if I hit the table with the back of my chair or whatever, which I do quite often, things would shift and fall over or whatnot. So these basically took me 2 days to make 4 of these on the printers. They are very, very solid. They used a lot of filament, as you can imagine, but well worth it. And why are they in 2 different colors? Because I ran out of filament halfway through the process. So I don't care about the color of these. This doesn't matter. These are very practical. They serve a purpose, and they're working right now fine. And also, just so the legs don't slide around a lot, I have a little bit of that alien tape stuff on the bottom of the legs of the table, and that keeps them sort of in place from shifting. So I'm very pleased with myself. I mean, very simple design, nothing fancy here. But it works. It works. And yes, I could buy risers on Amazon, but I couldn't get the ones that would give me exactly the height I needed. That was the problem. And they weren't particularly inexpensive either. So this works. So another use for a 3D printer. Okay, so that's all everything about 3D printing. And so in this section, I found something. This is interesting. Okay. Every now and then I come across something that I want to share with you because, well, it's just interesting. And this is what it is. Apparently, here's the headline. A novelist was accused of using AI. Why the literary world is still grappling with guardrails. Okay. Apparently, and it had to come, some author wrote a book, but the book was really written by AI. I mean, they went in and edited it because AI isn't perfect, but nevertheless, the bulk of the work, apparently, according to this article, was done by AI, which this is a complaint that artists have these days as well about artwork, or songwriters, that AI, well, myself, I have dabbled in songwriting using an AI program called Sono, and I explained that back a month or so ago. I did a whole thing about that. So, of course, people who are very talented and do this very creative thing, they're upset with it, and rightly so. That if anybody can do it, what's going to happen to them? This is their livelihood, for one thing, and it's their creative process for another. So this is what's happening in the literary world. Excuse me, I had a sneeze. So this whole article talks about this. And yeah, it's another thing that's kind of scary about AI. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of exciting that if you're not a writer and you want to use the AI to help you out with, say, business emails or letters or things like that. I suppose I could have used AI to write my letter of complaint to Wendy's. I never thought of that. I should have tried that to see what it would have come up with. But nevertheless, I guess we now need to be buyer beware, because they haven't really, this is so new that they really don't have laws governing this yet. It'll probably come, but it'll probably come, like everything, too late. So yeah, if you're interested in this, I've put the link to this article in the show notes below, and you can check it out for yourself. Okay. So that's about it for me today. Just some final notes. Still spots available for the retreat if you're interested. If you've already registered, get those pictures of one of your creations to me as soon as possible. Well, by Wednesday anyways, so I can put it in the slideshow. And we'll see you on Friday, for those of you that are registered, for the cocktail party if you decide to go. And we'll definitely see you on next Saturday for the retreat as well. And look for the agenda and link information that will be coming to your email box this Wednesday. And please let me know if you don't get it. Do check your junk. That sounds bad. Do check your junk mail or spam mail setting just to make sure it didn't go in there if you don't think you got it. Okay, I hope you have a great day. Tune in this week for my other videos, and we'll see you later. Bye for now. Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.